we don't grow up, it gets really ugly.
Dang, the sock is too tight. It's just too tight. Get it? It's too tight.
Please, 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 please take me to the park.
Watch. Did you see?
Yeah, that was a really good job.
Watch, I can do a whole circle.
Good morning, Marie! Time to get up! Can we have breakfast now? Can we have breakfast now?
Michelle.
This weekend,
Michelle.
don't worry.
Whee! Whee!
Michelle.
That can work.
Michelle. Michelle.
If that works.
I got it! It's
Michelle.
Do work
Michelle.
Monday, Tuesday.
Michelle. Michelle.
Yes.
I don't remember.
Oh, it's all soggy. I don't want that.
Oh, I remember. Michelle.
Yes, yes.
I like to go fishing. Watch.
Honey, where's your sock?